Savage Truth presents live from the King's War Chariot, somewhere outside of time, from the dimension of the impossible being possible, the mysterious realm where dreams are formed and destinies are birthed, standing on the edge of eternity where truth and faith merge, calling out, wake up.
Seeking truth.
Seeking truth.
Dismantling lies.
Dismantling lies.
It's time.
Time to unpod.
What do we really know about reality? How much of what we see is actually real, or how much could be a totally immersive illusion? How much can we really trust our own eyes and brain? Is the they live frequency manipulation real, reptilian illusion tech, and this fallen angel-led elaborate staged illusion completely trying to age of deception us all out? Through combinations of magic and super advanced technology, which is there really even a difference at this level? We're going to shred the veil on the They Live style reptilian frequency illusion, similar to the movie, in this Truman Show simulation theater for observers, literally called watchers. Anyway, spiritual mirror technology, portals, sneaky illusions, editing the future with timeline technology, hidden history, predictive programming, world fair death rays, and the shocking nature of invisible reality, eye and brain magic, real dimensional tunnels, and all sorts of scheduled and delightful wonderland rabbit holes are all scheduled here and topics we're going to be going through. Also, are we technology like a computer program? Wild mind control and super sneaky spy methods from the emerging beast system that they're using right now, and the big why nothing feels real anymore. Way more in general matrix hood, as we teeter the brink of reality and the boundaries of the mind. So let's start off with the premise of They Live, which is based on a novel, by the way, from the 60s. It's a short story called 8 o'clock in the morning. But some details, key details, are that they're reptilian fascinators who walk amongst us disguised as humans, while the world is under an illusion, a frequency tech-based illusion to be specific. In the movie, it's all driven from a tower, which ties in a previous research I've done. The Nimrod Saga Comp, and UNPOD 6.8, and more stuff on my page. But how cameras and screens and mirrors are used as part of the illusion programming and controlled dissemination on society. All beliefs are programmed into the people, including when they will die, and since they believe it, it all works. It's all done on subconscious, subliminal spirit levels. Harsh realities. So the creator who said that movie was a documentary, they told us that all technology was broadcasting a specific special frequency even when it was turned off. Literal spiritual warfare. And also, like the Tomorrowland Doom Tower, a society control frequency theme. I'll get to that later, but basically in Tomorrowland, there's a tower that emits a frequency, a doom frequency to the human population that causes destruction. Also interesting, in the movie, Roddy Piper is the Jesus archetype. Even his friend says you can't save yourself when he says I'm trying to save your whole family, trying to make him see the truth with the glasses. He's even betrayed by a Judas figure, the woman. And he is the archetypal outsider drifter who comes and makes the ultimate difference. The archetype of one who gives sight into the spirit realm. Like Yeshua, the true illumination and the true illuminator of the inner eyes. Knowing the truth, and the truth will set you free. And he also says we're all born into sin and bondage, just like the Matrix also tells us, a prison. These are all common themes that we're going to be getting into. His last name in the movie is Nada, like nothing. Just like the nobody Nazarene, can anything good come from Nazareth? and he takes down the entire royal reptilian race stronghold and system. It's the same story. Also tying this in with the Matrix, Neo and Truman in the Truman Show, they both hit the cross poses during the climax scenes at very key times. Neo with the machines, Truman when he exits. And again, all this ties in with the John Connor Terminator storyline, which I've also covered, in the creator, even supposed creator, said that the stories were related, and you can kind of tell. Also, 2025 and They Live is the goal in the secret elite reptilian Antichrist meeting. Social conditioning as part of the illusion. Society breeds competition instead of cooperation, division versus unity. Convinced that there's not enough for everybody, so we all have to compete with each other. These are all parts of the illusion. And then cooperation, basically, is just fake surface facade in order to compete better against each other. For most that are in the Matrix anyway. And they've already built a Matrix that subliminally alters everybody. There's many layers of this, and we're going to cut through them and expose them all. So let's throw on the Piper glasses, which are officially known as Hoffman lenses, but it really represents inner sight, the second sight, the inner eyes. Also, Hoffman in Hebrew means stewardship to fellow man, which is interesting, the responsibility to spread the truth. Hoffman. So hopefully this savage truth gives you the sight and helps all of us unpod. So let's start off by questioning reality by something you may have overlooked your entire life. Just like many obvious things that we accept from a child and then it just seems normal. Something that's always been there. What exactly is a mirror? Stupid question, right? Or is it? The more you think about it, and what I'm about to say, you actually wonder more, what is a mirror? And is reality encoded with invisible mirrors? Proportioned just right to make our own eyes and brain deceive ourselves. Later, I'm going to show you exactly how your own eyes and brain do this to you. They say that the world is a stage. Is this current construct like a mass optical illusion type of concept? And to what extent are we already in the Matrix? So Matrix, They Live, Truman Show, all commonalities. And they all use lenses, mirrors, or actual glasses, sunglasses, lenses, in order to show the symbolism and see into the other realm, also tying into the Vietnam original night vision, the red night vision, and the diocesan goggles, using lenses sort of to see beyond the firmament or other dimensions or into the spirit realm. Oracle seer, second sight. Anyway, have you ever pointed to mirrors at each other, two mirrors, and observed the infinite tunnel that's created? I'm sure you probably have. Are mirrors actually portals? The growing why everything seems fake now phenomena. Are you experiencing this at all? These are probably all related. The sad spreading of the nothing from the never-ending story. The empty, soulless, amnesic automaton shell dummy society, but worse. The wolf in the never-ending story, Gamork, says that hopeless people are the easiest to control. And the illusion of choice and cattle experiments kind of show this, which I'll get into. The CIA also had something called Project Looking Glass, which I'll again come back to, and the mirror being defined as a looking glass. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Or is it magic mirror on the wall? Which is a Mandela effect. Which one do you remember? Again, all of these bullet points are themes that are tying in, and you're going to come down the rabbit hole if you want and see where they go. It's all related to invisible tech and brain warfare. And mirrors everywhere. Quantum mirrors on top of mirrors. And Biff Tannen's alternate reality, Lucifer's Funhouse. Let's look for the exit sign. Mirrors are mysterious, spiritual, and a big part of the illusion of the framework of this simulation. Especially the hijacked version. And the further it gets from God's actual creation, that's what's manifesting here in this place. And like simulation theory, but with a meaning. With simulation theory, there's this feeling that it doesn't mean anything. But with creation, it's kind of the same thing, but it all has order, purpose, meaning, and goodness. It's kind of always what the Bible said. A creation that's encoded with testing and observation, a real original source world that's dimensionally above us. This is what the Bible has always told you. The mental swindle is to interpret it all like it has no meaning, conning us and to think that's what it's always been, while literally having their forces working overtime to do just that, turn Eden into a literal matrix. Have you ever had the thought that the firmament is like a dimensional barrier that acts like a two-way mirror, as in they see us, but we don't see them? Watchers, real-life Truman Show, now playing on an Earth sim near you. Speaking of sims, stages, and Truman Show lifelike illusions and the Watchers, let's explore the maybe unlikely but totally possible and definitely happening somewhere possibility of Are You or Your Family, a deep web reality TV show through the all-cameraed smart matrix spy devices that exist all around us, and quantum towers and mirror looking glass technologies for weird underworld hackers or super elites whose pleasure it is not only to watch their human subjects, but also to influence and remote control them like toys through frequency technology. Control their actions, thoughts, or words through body hacking technology. Sounds wild, right? But probably already happening to many and definitely has happened in experiments before. I've showed you before electricity controls DNA. Scientists have controlled DNA with electricity, and how people can be hacked into like computers. Things like the Internet of Bodies, Internet of Things, all tying into this that I've talked about. Plus tons of wild patents that I've also covered. But I really do believe at some point the Holy Spirit will be the only way to resist this type of body hacking technology from working if it were tried on you. Probably tied into the ancients' Faraday hat, anti-mind control, aluminum tinfoil hats, and predecessor Anunnaki cone hat theme that you see all over the ancient world. Anyway, I've digressed into a rabbit hole, which you're going to find happens frequently in a scheduled and pleasant way, hopefully, because it all connects. One thing you may have noticed about mirrors is that mirrors are green. If you've ever looked inside of them, you'll see this. Or glass also, because it's the same thing basically. If you look inside of infinite mirror tunneling, that's green. Just like the intentional green hue in the Matrix world. Green. Why? Particularly the elemental makeup in iron, but mainly really it's esoteric alchemy, things I've mentioned about the middle of the rainbow being green. Green tunnels of infinitude and matrixhood, a counterfeit of the reality. And it all has to do with the color spectrum, properties that the color green actually has. Green loses the least amount of light compared to the other colors as it copies over and over and over and repeats itself. So with each copy or reflection, a little bit of light is lost, resulting in just more and more green. Green is what remains. So mirror tunnels with quantum tunneling and infinitude ties into why the original internet was green. What the internet actually really is, why the matrix is green. But again, even on the internet, mirror sites, mirror servers, all built with mirror tech. And the color green also because the human eye is tuned to be twice as sensitive to green light than any other light. This is all scientific, calculated, and known. That ties into social programming like the Pitbull song about "Give me the green light because I'm ready to go," which are the lyrics with the possible double entendre meaning. Ready to go all the way into the matrix, follow the green light into the mirror world. Anyway, whether that's related or not, weird to think about how all light is different, especially artificial light. Many types of water and different types of light. It's not all the same. Different types of lights have different types of effects. Also with green light, there was an interesting phenomenon on the Skinwalker Ranch with green light anomalies and laser testing where they believed to be some sort of weird presence and only green light was blocked out. The blue and red light was not blocked out, but the green light was. I'm sure this all ties in. Spiritual green light anomalies and mirror tunnel tech. Again, the newer mass-produced enhanced idea of the ancient demon obsidian mirror like demon face time, magic mirrors of Atlantean days past. The matrix green tint and hue, the false mirror world, probably already more than partially active in many ways. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be in a room full of mirrors? Check out this clip. Mirrors, ceiling and floor included. The feeling of infinitude, or maybe what it's like to be one of those beings trapped in the quantum phantom zone prison. Trapped inside of some VR tech, as well as, like a video on my page mentions, the fallen angel trapping humans in VR as a reverse phantom zone plan. Anyway, concepts of infinity. There's something called Gabriel's horn, which is infinite versus finite, and probably sounds cooler than it is, other than the tie-in on this actual property of this specific shape, which, as you can see, is the depiction of angel horns or trumpets that you have always seen. It's because this shape relates to infinity. This is an infinite shape, seen all over statues, and it makes sense why it would have some sort of property like this. Gabriel's horn, an infinite energy weapon, because it can produce infinity when blown. Can produce fires, can produce whatever. Again, this all has to do with shapes and matter and energy. Also, even the reason why people are instinctively attracted to each other or like each other, it all has to do with shapes. All invisible energy. Infinity is an interesting concept, just like the mirror tunnels I mentioned. But how do we know what it is or that it even exists? I'm going to tell you something that won't sound real about infinity. It has to do with the deck of cards, and that with each shuffle of cards, there's an infinite amount of shuffles that can happen. So supposedly, each shuffle that has ever happened in the history of planet Earth or ever will be completely unique than any other shuffle or deck that has ever existed with those 52 cards. Will never repeat again in history. Completely unique shuffle. The infinity with 52 cards. How does that even sound real? Again, cards tying in to the 52 weeks of the year. This is all relating to the stars. Also, the meta symbol looks like infinity. Do you remember the Men in Black ending clip where they did the infinity zoom, tying with the nature of reality? Penrose was a famous mathematician that talked about the Gödel principle, which is basically you can't prove what you can prove based on the rules that govern the rules. Meaning it's impossible things always happen, basically, that would negate the rules. Or that govern things. So basically, scientifically, I think what he was trying to say is that nobody can figure out God or why he does things, because when you think you have some sort of formula figured out, there's always something that breaks that. He also speculated on, is infinity a place? And he also demonstrated how there are different types of infinity, as well as different types of geometry. Again, this all ties into Pythagorean geometry, different music scales, and the changing of frequencies, and even Earth's natural resonance or Schumann frequency, changing the DNA frequency in the individual, and different infinities and boundaries for people. Anyway, Penrose concluded that all of this was kind of like a massive entity that we're all in, that he said would be a clock particle, time itself. A giant clock particle entity that we're all in, known as time. That was Penrose's conclusion when studying infinity. So skipping a bunch of boring math details that have to do with Einstein and Planck, basically when you travel at the speed of light, you lose more and more mass. So think of the outside of time concept when you travel faster for a minute. This all ties in with the sun, and the sun having to do with time and being able to travel fast enough to get away from it all, and the esoteric thought that they want to get away from the actual, what they view as the Judeo-Christian sun and the rule of it, to actually get away from that presence. That presence itself warrants an escape. And it kind of ties in with how Superman was weakened under the sun, the original sun, and certain types of light. These are all esoteric thoughts tied in about the elite wanting to get away from the Judeo-Christian sun. Penrose also had a mirror room, which is a shape that made me think of the firmament, which we're going to skip. But also how that was a two-way mirror was kind of an interesting thought. And Amos calls the firmament a vaulted dome. Job likens it to a molten mirror. Josephus likens it to a crystalline firmament. Again, all tying in with the two-way mirror Truman Show watcher thoughts. They see us, we don't see them. Speaking of up there, NASA, working on patents for an artificial sun. NASA probably being Space Force liaisons for second heaven beings and doing rituals up there. Nuclear alchemy and rocketry are always the highest expressions of occult science, which the occult science race you see began kind of in the 40s, at least the publicized, public known version of it. Also publishing about portals that they called X points and various things. But before moving into portals, I'll briefly mention, and moving away from Penrose, that he had a sacred geometry Penrose pattern that ties in with infinity, which I'm going to skip this section other than to say that it all has to do with five-sided pentagram versions of infinity with geometry shapes at 72-degree angles. And think about the 72 goetic demon seals and other stuff that I've covered before. Does it sound familiar? Also, ancient Islamic temples, this pattern can also be found on, whose mosques are all lit up by a glowing alchemical green because it was Muhammad's favorite color. I wonder if any of this ties in. Also, for you math whizzes out there, something called the Ramsey theorem, which has to do with infinite subsets, but really it has to do, it's a mathematical way to express an esoteric concept of order from chaos. Does that phrase sound familiar? The New World Order. All these sciences and mathematics really are just esoteric expressions. Again, the order from chaos, Ramsey theorem. Academic terms for occult practices is always what you'll find in academia. That word academia itself, which is the king's version of reality, basically. So all esoteric scientific thought form basis of how to change things on the smallest levels to change them on a larger level, change the whole. Also, the Ramsey theorem that I mentioned is the basis of all quantum sensing and computing. The Ramsey theorem and the World Wide Web and the spiritual mirror tech. This all ties in together. Order out of chaos, New World Order, weird pentamino and tetramino shapes has to do with Tetris and sacred geometry. Breaking down energy and then re-engineering it Anunnaki style, which I'm going to skip over, but many have concluded that these laws and knowledge govern reality. And ultimately, if you break down what reality is at the smallest level, even beyond electrons or quarks, you'll see it's not even solid. At the deepest level, it's light. It's not even solid, and all you can do to describe reality, the best you can do is describe it with mathematical models. A mathematical description is all that's left for the human mind or understanding from a logical standpoint. Also, a lot of math symbols and computer coding symbols resemble ancient Sumerian and look like little constellation sigils. Again, tying in with runes and demon sigils. Little alien-like computer code programming. Again, it being based on the pentagram and 72-angle sacred geometry. The Mystery Babylon text programming. Designed to match the 72 goetic demon seals that literally our entire technology grid is based off of, which I've gone into on Pod 6 if you want to know more about that. But you'll see one of the most common themes of the past bunch of years in predictive programming is the merging of dimensions and portals. Are mirrors really portals? The Neo mirror portal, the constant use of mirrors in the Matrix, always going through the mirrors. Neo going through the looking glass. Also in Matrix Resurrection, a theme of a character that he coded actually was in real life, and that he was in shock about it, that something that he coded then actually came into the real world that existed, which is another mega theme that you'll see in Hollywood. Scene after scene in the Matrix, pay attention to the constant uses of lenses and mirrors, and even Neo using mirrors and phones as portals. Mirrors and phones as portals. Every single person on the phone, in a mirrored elevator, in an office full of screens and more. They're just constantly hammering this theme home in the Matrix. And even in the scene with the architect, which is a major reveal, it's just surrounded by screens. When they're inside of the Matrix, they're literally inside of a computer program, and their physical body is in a pod. Time to wake up and unpod. Break the sim, shatter the illusion, and free your mind with the ultimate truth. They're all in pods, in cells. Not only prison pods, cells being like batteries, but cells also like cellular, like human cells, and each person in a pod is a cell for some sort of gigantic entity. And the same even with cell phones and how this is all going to tie in. Cells in a huge body. The Great Mother, which is actually what the word matrix means. Matrix comes from mother. Matrix means womb, and it comes from, again, in etymology, mater. The word mother and matrix are connected. Pods, embryo. Do you see the theme here? Time to wake up and be born again. Anyway, the Matrix heavily taps into esotericism with the construct and the simulacrum. This idea of the simulacra, a world inside of a world, a fake world, lower world, a duplicate copy of a world inside of a real source world. Also the themes of the AI war, and that was the reason for the Matrix. Plot details. They're using people's electrical producing and energy producing capabilities inside of the body that they have innately and using it to siphon for power. Just like all the leading tech is starting to do now, all getting inside of the body invasively. Also, weird rabbit hole stories. You can find tons of stuff about the internet or even certain apps being a portal. If you know who Troy Brewer is, he tells a story about how he encountered a demon who used the Zoom app and Wi-Fi as a portal to literally come into his house and confront him. Spiritual mirror tech. Mirrors reflecting and capturing energy, copy or clone people's essences, or being used for portals for spirits, all scientifically being demonstrated. The Black Mirror phone with screen mirroring, which is like saying mirror mirroring, kind of like pizza pie. But the Black Mirror has a long occult history, even before John Dee, earlier colonial periods, and even heavy in the Aztec Empire. Do you remember in the original Jumanji movie how that this was a Black Mirror board game that changes and controls reality? In ancient China or other cultures, brass or bronze mirrors used as protection from spirits, which is what Solomon supposedly did to use to bind them with brass or bronze. All kind of interesting. And the origin for the brass jinn vessels that they would keep the jinn or the genie in the little brass lamp. Interesting, our electricity grid is electric energy and copper vessels that's commanded with sigils. So there's that. Mirror traditions. About truth mirrors. There were some ancient truth mirrors that revealed someone's true nature if they were to stand in front of it. You could see spiritual things about them and their true nature. Also in ancient Japan, magic mirror tech in the imperial regalia, royal mirrors that had special purposes. This is in every culture, all these magic mirrors. Again, scientifically, how they definitely absorb light, and people are made up of light. And the people thought that those who stared at themselves too much in a mirror could actually lose their soul. This was a heavy belief in ancient times. And even the literal actual narcissist origin has to do with the mirror and constantly staring into it. Narcissists and mirrors and self-worship. And the concept of self and even mirrors used in satanic rituals. But I find that interesting that how widespread the narcissist theme is nowadays in the thought field, and how the origin of that actually has to do with the mirror. All projected through mirrors to us nowadays. By the way, the screen is literally called a monitor. You're not watching the movie is watching you. Ancient beliefs about mirrors not being pointed at each other, probably to avoid infinite mirror tunnels, loops or portals or the like. Ancient beliefs about not having mirrors pointed at your bed, about maybe your dream spirit would get confused and go into the mirror, and just other traditions like the mirror breaking and how that was bad luck. Maybe because spirits were angry if you just broke their portal, or monitoring device, or released some sort of weird energy that was stored up or something. Same with walking under ladders, also bad luck. Also interesting how a ladder was also a portal. Jacob's ladder and mirrors are portals, and they both have to do with luck. Anyway, mirrors and non-reflections. Vampires and certain beings were not casting reflections, supposedly. Like spirits that don't exist native to this dimension just don't cast reflections unless it's a false reflection. The idea of word and energy curses that can come through mirrors and covering mirrors at certain times, or even screens, because they're the same. And to demonstrate this, even with angles, mirrors can block Wi-Fi. Just regular mirrors in your house, if you have them in the wrong place or have them at certain angles, they can actually block Wi-Fi. You can look that up. Mirrors and energy flow interaction and actual energy processing capabilities is real. If you just walked in front of a mirror that somebody had just cussed themselves out hard in, and then you walked in there when they were done, do you think you could feel it? Or even really discerning or sensitive, even a room for that matter. Many things we overlook as ordinary, like mirrors, maybe more, also like cameras possibly. Have you ever actually thought how a camera worked, other than we accept it, and there's a basic science we understand, but you're just pointing something at somebody, you press a button, and then that image is just captured. It, like somebody drew it on there, it's just there. Even the phrase capturing an image. Weird and occultic origin of the camera in early film technology, things called the camera obscura or the phantoscope. Phantom being a ghost, by the way. Also cameras, early cameras known as magic lanterns, and there were magic lantern shows, which again, this was movies basically. Masonic dramatized rituals, literally rituals that were dramatized, magic lantern shows, and the origin of theater, occult theater, even being called occult theater, and the occult revival or theosophy drama theater were names of this in certain places. Again, all tying into theosophy, Aleister Crowley, the occult, secret societies, even being called Isis theaters all over the early USA, with ancient Egyptian temples that would become movie theaters. This is the origin of movies. Hollywood's spell on society and the role in this illusion through this mirror tech camera technology. Also using mirror manipulation technology, the good old camera. The weird power to capture images, to capture and record something and tell visions. That has completely changed the world. Isis theaters. Isis was an Egyptian goddess known for magic and enchantment, and had the ability to create illusions and manipulate reality. A world of enchantment literally was Disney's slogan, or somebody's like that. I'm pretty sure it was Disney's. Something like, welcome to the world of enchantment. Also, Isis having the connection with the moon, and the moon having its own illusion and frequency associations. The 7 ancient planets and metals, the moon being connected to silver, and the silver screen. This is called the silver screen, the mirror that tells you a vision to mirror. To enter your mind, which is what the word entertainment means, to enter your mind and capture it with the vision they want to tell you from their mirror to your mirror mind for you to act it out. Literally called programming. TV shows called programs, just like computer programs. Anyway, to enter the mind. Ritualized drama, entertainment, illusion. Anyway, I mentioned the moon's illusion, which is, on the horizon, it looks bigger. But in esotericism, Saturn and Saturn's rings are part of this frequency illusion. That's part of the matrix holography that keeps the system in place, is a belief you'll find that ties in with Saturn and the black cube cult that you'll see all over the world. and how all that ties into sacred geometry and putting the world in a literal matrix prison. Companies like BlackRock and Blackstone, and even the Kaaba and Black Cubes all over the world related to the Saturnian cult, and all their umbrella companies and media companies that disseminate the fallen angel programming. By the way, spirits, companies, or evil just pretend to die. They lie low for a little while when needed. Then they re-emerge with a new name and new branding. Just one head re-emerging from the Hydra with totally new name and remarketing, so it's untraceable. But the same spirit and essence behind it. It's the mega pattern of the occult. They try to be untraceable to perpetuate the illusion, which is exactly what Mystery Babylon is. It's the same thing that's just preserved, passed on through time in the grand work that's known as many things, many spin-offs and umbrella underneath organizations with name changes to always hide. They live. This frequency comes from towers and satellites, broadcast centers. Again, tying in with the Death Doom frequency in Tomorrowland and the Eiffel Tower, the reptilian illusion, their frequency spiritual warfare. By the way, I mentioned Saturn's rings. Did you know, just as a fun factoid, that Neptune also has rings? I bet you've never heard that before. Also related to this frequency illusion concept, there's theories about bells and reptilians and old world bells and why they were removed, and how it has to do with reptilians, and how these bells would emit these huge dimensional shattering frequencies. Even sometimes on TV clips, supposedly you can see some of this reptilian interference where some of the frequency catches some of the shifting or not being able to hold the illusion up for a few seconds. Reality carefully crafted and tailored to appear as something that it's not. They live, Piper, reptilians, and illusions reminds me of Jesus' verse about hypocrites. Hypocrites means actors, pretenders. It means it's not whatever you're seeing. Even the illusion of masks, wearing masks, being actors, masquerades, an illusion. Jesus said that this whole world is an illusion and called out the actors, the religious leaders of the time. How many people in this world, or even your own life, are not what they are seeing or are presenting to you? Actors in the Truman Show, illusions and masks. When getting to the super deep layers of the matrix, there's always programming to protect the programming so that people always stay asleep. It may result in irritation or other types of things that happen. And also gatekeepers. Anyway, not wanting to stay asleep forever and awakening is the goal. One part of awakening is to explore all the programming that you possibly were programmed with your whole life. Later in your own time, you should reflect on maybe how you were programmed in childhood, or even how those that programmed you were programmed. Try to get to the source of everything. Again, even when you were a child before you knew anything, there were so many things you were programmed with that are somewhere in your subconscious. Even all the media that you consumed when you were younger. TVs and computers, screens and cameras, and their relation to the illusion. Families were tribes that would spiritually sit around in a circle or semicircle, and they would stare at the flickering light of the TV screen. They would stare at the flickering light of the fire, which I intentionally said because now it's been replaced with the TV screen. The ancient time that would sit around looking at that flicker, and the flicker of that fire being spiritual, again, the TV being a faux version of that. The alive, flickering fire that tells you a vision, programming for your mind. Fallen angel museology. Brainwaves and brain state control as a form of disassociation. Is this video that you're watching even real? And what do I mean by that? And the whole idea that videos aren't real. It's all computer code and programming. Computer language. Even the colors, they're all programmed into computers, and they're programmed into the internet and TVs of how they should display. What is a computer? Some people literally say it's a rock that does math, and there's some things that shouldn't work, but they do, is what computer engineers will tell you. That just, there's things that shouldn't work, but do. And this rock doing math is kind of a miracle. And in a computer, everything is programmed, so how do they know what color actually is to program it? Anyway, all symbols and coding, there is answers for that. But one challenge of the lesson for you with color computing and illusion is, what color is this strawberry picture right here? Gray and green is apparently the right answer. Apparently there is no red. This is all gray and green filters, but your mind makes it look red. I'm still not sure that I even believe that myself, but supposedly, scientifically, that's what they say about this picture. On the train of computer code and how complex computer programming is, think about the Google code and how complex that would be just to write Google. Now think about AI coding and how complex that would be. Now think literally about human DNA coding and how complex it would be for that. And the idea to think that that formed randomly is completely unreasonable. To think that an AI, a super genius AI computer system, randomly just evolved and formed itself is ridiculous. So the idea that humans did in this day and age is, bruh. Human body, DNA coding, which is super complex. The smartest man in the world with the highest IQ says that Jesus is Lord. He also said, with calculating, not belief, with calculating, that we are definitely in the last generations, all according to ancient prophecy and other things that he factored into his calculation. DNA, RNA, IQ. It's almost like reality itself is governed with these acronyms, things that we can only describe on scientific levels or with math. Speaking of which, what actually is IQ? Brain coding. Ability meeting potential. Nature versus nurture. Where does intelligence come from, and why are some people really smart amongst others? How does that happen? Are there elements of the supernatural in certain seeming natural births or humans? Ghosts in the machine, special coding that certain humans or even computers might have. All computers based off of zeros and ones, binary code. Even James Gates has the error correcting code he found, a mathematician that found error correcting mathematical computer code embedded into the very nature and fabric of reality. And even zeros and ones date back beyond the pre-flood and even have to do with things like the I Ching, zeros and ones. This is all esoteric ancient stuff. Ones and zeros all also looking the same from different angles as a perspective illusion. Everything being oscillating fields, refractive prisms of light that govern electricity and magnetism. But basically ones and zeros are switches that go on and off all the time and route things. And that's basically what makes computer circuits and portals work, is whether these switches, ones and zeros, these switches are on or off. So these ones and zeros tying into positive and negative with electricity and electrical charges, and how electricity can program DNA and then remote control living beings, and also the same principles of polarity with magnets. Anytime people interact, there's always an energy exchange, so you should be on guard. Energy is real and always exchanging. Electricity even being demonstrated to be alive and have memory. In electricity rub experiments with the same substance, they have demonstrated that static electricity makes choices. It picks and chooses randomly which side will be negative and which side will be positive. It's alive and can make choices, and again can be random. And it also have ingrained memory and organization within itself. Did you know that there was dirty versus clean electricity? Not all the electricity is the same. Sine waves, abbreviated as SIN, by the way, and the power of light versus darkness as a metaphor, but also maybe literal, all ties into this. Dirty and clean electricity and light waves. And again, how light is being totally used to manipulate everybody. Check out my reptilian light manipulation video later on. But the power grid, power lines, and more are all part of this spy deception on the dumb, handicapped experiment populace. Did you know that power lines can be used to spy on you? Something called ENF. There's something called an electronic network frequency, supposedly supposed to be around 50 hertz, that they can measure. There's other frequencies in the realm, basically, that change, that are embedded into everything. And to every recording that ever happens, there's these invisible frequencies, basically, that always exist, that you can't hear. So devices like power lines can actually measure and then extract the exact location where things have happened based on the difference between these harmonic ENF traces. Pretty sneaky, Matrix. Also, home cameras and Nests built in with mics that nobody told you about. Even things like ACs and fire alarms. Not only having chips, but also having cameras in them. Literal Big Brother already. Even AI on test knows keystroke sounds up to 95% accuracy just by the sound. They can know, not even by looking, just by measuring sound and frequency, what keys you're typing with. So they can just decode your typing that way. Under a whole populace of neuromodulation, which is remote possession, basically. The mind, illusions, electricity, zeros and ones switches. I'm going to tie all this in with the power of the Holy Spirit, often being described as electricity, sometimes making hair stand up on end and being the ultimate power, and the fact that praying can affect these ones and zeros. If some of these ones and zeros or switches are off or dead in somebody's body or the wrong way, the power of the Holy Spirit, the highest power, literally can change all of this. The difference of being unhealed to healed, bringing damaged or unstructured form into perfect shalom. Power over the sim and spirits with words, this higher energy. So don't get too caught up in the matrix, because we are going to get to the highest truth scientifically, how this all plays into it. Gates and portals in computing, switches on and off, even gates in computers called half adders. Adder also being a snake, even though it's play on add. But some of these switches actually do look like sigils. And in a 0 and 1 world, some people are actually 2s in the matrix. The matrix literally can't compute what to do with the 2s, and it never will know what to do with the 2s. It wants to make everybody a 0 and a 1. Computers literally would have to make up a whole new column, model, and structure and rules to try to make it work. Neurodivergence is a term that, in a lesser way, maybe would tie into this. Neos are 2s in the 0s and 1s of reality. Also, with 0s and 1s, the phrase 101 and entering a new reality and a new level. 101 esoterically as well. A portal of Jesus on the cross. And again, Samson between the two pillars. You can check that out on my page. But aside from 2s in the matrix, this ties in with qubits, which can be 0s and 1s at the same time. Being in both states of matter at the same time, which is the key to other dimensions. The highest level of quantum computing admit that they don't know how any of this works. All the stuff with quantum computing and AI, they don't know how it works. It instantaneously is referencing 182 zettabytes of data anytime it makes a decision. You can't even understand how that would work as a super brain. Shift keying right into the dead internet theory, but something is alive for show. The dead internet theory, the corporate takeover of the free internet. Now people, the internet wants a free place with a lot of different websites. People used to do and be a lot more free. Now it's just basically the same 10 Matrix-owned apps, and that's all anyone ever does, and the rest of it has just gone into rogue, dead, non-existing states and or bots. They followed them into the internet, took it over, and copied and pasted with AI bot traffic, just like anything anyone does to escape, even coming over here to the United States from England back in the day. going into the internet to make internet. They just follow, dominate, and take over, copy and paste. AI bot traffic estimated that over half of internet is bots in studies, and by 2026, supposedly, 90% of content will be synthetically generated by bots. Social media system promoted. Facebook, aka fake book. People literally buying friends or buying bot farms to comment and like on their stuff to appear more popular. And this bot farm is also why some people get big or don't. In the matrix suppression, a lot of the influencers are actually just matrix pushed soul sellers. Something known as the inversion is the point where there will be more bots than actual humans on the net wherever you go, which a lot of people theorize have already happened, the inversion point. I'm going to skip this section and go into the web, the deep web. Now the regular web is just sort of like a little public land farm, and the deep web is actually hidden land for the elites, which in real life that actually probably happens, and there's a chance that we could be in a world inside of a world. Anyway, the time societal reflection. We talked about infinity and mirrors, technology and time, the dead internet theory, and some of the evidence of this is that eras, which all used to have distinctive identities when you look back at like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there's all many things you can point to that will distinctively identify that era. But since 2005, for the past 20 years up till present, there really is no distinct identity with anything. And that's because technology has become the culture, which means society's already cooked. It's already in the technocracy rising, beast system emerging. Dead internet being part of the illusion. Even obvious things from years ago like deep fakes, voice cloning, all that other stuff, just so nobody knows what's real anymore in the age of deception. You may have also noticed how search terms over the years keep getting harder and harder to search anything real. Intentionally suppress search results. Less and less human stuff on the net, more and more ghosts, digital ghosts, inverting with us as we become ghosts. In fact, with the whole ghosts in the machine principle, the internet is the world's biggest haunted house. Aside from ghosts in the machine, it's full of the living and dead people. How much content of dead people being alive is in the haunted house of the internet? People of today, avatars of the dead, ghost portals of demonic spirit rooms, the dead internet, but something is alive. And it's not good. Moving on to another fact you think is not real that I'm going to tell you is that more people own cell phones than toothbrushes now. In the entire world, worldwide, more people own a cell phone than a toothbrush. We are literally in the matrix. Satan inspired the census in the Bible. It's always Satan's idea that wants to count the populace and count people and number them. Digitally registered in the matrix. This is inspired by Satan to control everybody and literally slowly frog in a pot, boil them, bringing them into the matrix. Slowly, little by little, generation by generation. But our generation, I believe, we're about to see a mega acceleration and have already seen the beginning phases of it. By the way, there's a whole toothbrush, plastic DuPont BlackRock rabbit hole as a matrix device that I'll probably skip. But the digital soulless ghost matrix spreading into and taking over this realm. In fact, digital ghosts, we as humans are already starting to live like ghosts. That's why nothing feels real. We are doing less and less real things, and literally everything we do is inside of a screen or a mirror, and we store everything inside of these screens and mirrors. And most of what people do is watch things in screens or mirrors. Everything is stored in them. We're all living like ghosts already. And there's always the good old mass pharmakeia, psyop, and movement as part of this matrix illusion to completely disassociate everybody. Rudolf Steiner has a quote that says that they will steal and erase or eliminate the soul through medicine. Erasing the soul through medicine. This came literally from the playbook of Satan, screw tape letter style. The dead internet and nothing feeling real, tying in with the nothing from the never-ending story, just the spreading of the complete nothing, soulless automaton mode. Imagination being replaced with algorithm. Endless content, but no meaningful stories that connect us to a source. There's tons of data, but no wisdom. Tons of repeat videos, but hardly any creativity. This is the Matrix beast system feed. Alive and growing while we all die. And forget. We're all forgetting. The nothing is growing. Think about that term, the feed. Cattle farms, a populace just being fed, all fattened up for a mass species sacrifice merge. Again, in the nothing, the wolf saying people with no hopes are the easiest to control in an infinite loop of the never-ending story Gamork cycle. Time to remember. Time to start remembering things, which may be hard with supposed DARPA tech that's been around. Aside from the neuromodulation, remote possession, off-site brain technology I mentioned, which is overriding memories or literally replacing or adding memories. Nevertheless, remember. But also, moving on from the dead internet, I will mention the Thanobot. That literally means death bot. And it's a way to talk to the dead, the good old Thanobot. That's This is digital techno-necromancy. Also, Thanatos being the death angel, which I've covered. Probably all, again, tying into Thanos on some level, who did open up a portal to merge dimensions. And even Thanos having time stones and time wave, time mirror technology and control. Thanobots and nanobots. Also, bots everywhere. Portal theme, starting to see this portal theme everywhere on the big phone portal. The big phone portal, the black outline rectangle screen portal in the Minecraft movie, which again, these portals being a major theme. Other themes about being the underworld coming through a portal to invade the overworld. Two ancient powered artifacts found in a cave. A cube orb and a crystal mirror basically. And when you combine them, you get a portal to other dimensions. And they also make sure that you know it's a cube too, and it looks exactly like the Tesseract in the Marvel movies. Again, because it's probably all based off something real. Again, even having the same blue glow. All having alchemy and dwarf tie-ins, which all go together inseparably. I'll come back to it at some other point. But they create portals. This ties into my Doors to Nowhere episode. Realms merging, a slew of Hollywood plots that all show this same thing. This is all related to what Revelation 9 says will happen one day. Beings from the underworld invading Earth, all relating to the Antichrist and underworld armies. Portals and themes of the underworld, even theme parks and new portals to new worlds of dragons, magic, and darkness, even with phrases that our universe will never be the same again. The phrase of some of these theme parks that show portal themes, and that is the theme of their parks. Also the quantum tachyon amplifier portal machine, and similar common themes all tying in with reversing time waves, which they discovered this year with time mirrors. Minecraft, they very specifically showed you that cube. Again, with the geometry, that ties it all in with the Cult of Saturn, but the movie Pixels. Pixels also shows you this same exact cube. It also shows beings coming in through a portal to this dimension. Also, fictional beings. It fits this same archetype, or beings, created beings, all breaking through to this dimension. It's the same story, basically. Geometry also is a portal to other geometry, into other dimensions, sacred geometry. Computers, aside from the spiritual origins of the internet literally having components called portals, there is also the thought that you could be knocked out by a hologram. Can light become solid? Check this out. How many lights do you see in this clip right here? Do you see one or do you see many? What is the correct answer? Reality can get weird and so can light, so we're going to go deeper on the knocked out by a hologram thought. This is called aerohaptics, which is feeling a hologram basically. Touch and sensation. Can you imagine an army of aerohaptic holograms? Kind of like an old sci-fi or 80s cartoons where you have to keep striking them until you can find the real one. And they just keep coming until you do. And then they all disable. This kind of tech has existed before, slow release through movies or fiction. Also, the supposed Lockheed Martin orb tech works with magnetic mirrors that can manipulate light particles, using mirrors to control light and the magnetic field. Intelligent magnetic fields. So aerohaptics and what I told you about inside of an atom, it's just light. It's not solid. So is everything a hologram? If you could fix your mind right, could you walk right through a wall? Kind of like the Neo bending the spoon thing. Anyway, there is this thing called the holographic universe theory. So what are we all in exactly is what they ask, kind of trying to figure out the nature of this construct. And also remember the Penrose clock entity idea, living inside of time. Also, there is the free guy illusion world. Secret worlds and access and knowledge through special lenses again. They live and matrix, etc., the pattern I displayed, and also literally again through sunglasses, through lenses. Also, the movie Pixels I showed you, you'll see when he's wearing the orange tech suit the entire time, there's just glasses. It's the little nerd glasses on there the entire time. But anyway, secret worlds and access in the movie Free Guy through glasses. Hidden things in reality, veiled reality, or some sort of sense of an illusion that we can't see what's really there. So aerohaptics and holograms and solid light. Maybe everything is a solid hologram. And like I mentioned a minute ago, spirits actually do walk through walls. Atomic structure manipulation. All ancient philosophy and spiritual thought forms. The spoon doesn't exist. And there is actually the walk through wall patents and mad people's experiences where beings just walk through walls. So they're spiritual and technology seeming to be able to walk through walls. And this whole thing about light. Also the thought that everything is tech or computer-like, including your body. And everything is coded from society to computers to the body. Scripted reality. Also the word script in plays and in movies and again in computer programming, because after all, the world is a stage. The Truman Show, stages and scripts. And stages needing scripts. They also need lighting and smoke and mirrors. So on this tip of light, what makes blue light so special? Check out this wild blue light tech rabbit hole. Obviously you know about the phone, and I'm sure you've heard the term blue light. So there was a literal Nobel Prize in physics to figure out just how to make blue light. You wouldn't think it would be that complicated, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. Decades to figure it out. Blue light holds the most info and the key to connecting all the rainbow of the false spectrum light together, kind of. By the way, it's literally GMO light, just like GMO everything. Again, tying into the false illusion of society. Blue light just being one piece of the puzzle. But back to mirrors made from different glass or gemstones and even old world rabbit holes, elemental glasses or eatware that supposedly had benefits like radium or cobalt, etc. Even to some nuclear explosions in the desert only to produce certain type of radioactive desert glass. Gemstones that are similar to moldavite, which can be used for certain things that are spiritual or technological. Anyway, other alchemized, ritualized, or infused mirrors, and maybe even the modern mirrors and mass-produced ones and sold in stores or online. Maybe even regular mirrors, basically. Could be all these things we're talking about. Would it surprise you? I mean, who owns all the top companies in the Matrix, and who do they serve? Would it really surprise you if they had done this to their products? What is their ultimate allegiance toward? The Black Cube Mirror Matrix Cult of the Light Bearer. I mentioned the two-way mirror earlier. There is the test, the finger point test. Also, the optical range of man is very limited, and the portions of the light and color spectrum and visual spectrum that we all see is only a small portion. And certain animals can see way more. Speaking of animals, check out this spiritual nature illusion. Check out this flower, this awesome looking, beautiful orchid. Or is it a deadly mantis illusioning itself as a flower to prey on its prey? There are also these cyborg bees in China and other places, and it works by creating illusions in the bee's brain by manipulating their brains with electricity and other magic technology, kind of. Creating illusions in their brain with electricity to control them. Cyborg bees. Anyway, this kind of reminds me of the movie Hypnotic. If you've never seen it, Ben Affleck is in that movie, and he's in a scene where he's basically in a mental construct, basically hypnotized to see things that aren't really there. He's driving around in a golf cart in a studio set, but in his mind, he thinks he's in some sort of high-speed chase following clues, being mocked the whole time. Is society like that? Anyway, the human brain, which they have completely reverse engineered and built supercomputers around, and then they've even made living versions of, and then tiny versions of. But Facebook's new supercomputer supposedly will be the size of Manhattan, and that's even accounting for all the miniaturization of everything that I mentioned. The size of Manhattan supercomputer. Also, speaking of cities, there is the Sky City illusion that they said was a Fata Morgana, again in China. And multiple times these sky cities have been seen. Are they illusions? Are they Bluebeam style holograms? Or is it actually peering into some of these other dimensions we're talking about? Seeing through the looking glass, so to speak, which that term is going to come back up. Anyway, the easily controlled and susceptible, especially in the reptilian frequency matrix human brain, is not only limited, but it's easily deceived, which I'm going to prove to you. And if you think you're up for the challenge, then good, this will be fun. Can we trust what we see? Are our own eyes and brain deceiving us? This first clip here, it looks like the dragon's head is always following you, no matter where you go. It, in a freaky way, sort of looks like the head or the eyes, it just keeps following you. Again, this illusion works on manipulative angles. There is also the Ames window and even the Ames room, all working on the same principles. Check out these clips.
Right through the center of the window and press it in place like that. Now this time, by fixing on the pen, you will be able to see that the pen is going around in a circle and not going backwards and forwards. But what's your brain going to tell you about the window? Will your brain allow you to see the window going around in a circle with the pen? Or are you going to see something really strange? Well, have a look at that. That's unbelievable, isn't it? You can see the pen going around in a circle, but your brain is telling you that the window is going part way around and turning and going the other way. And yet in order to do that, the two things have to pass through one another, the pen and the window. You know it's not possible. You know it can't happen. And yet as you look at it, you see them going through one another every time they go around. An amazing illusion, the Ames window. crazy room that seems to make people grow when they go to one side and then shrink when they go to the other. If you watch my head...
There's also brain illusions, the way your mind registers information. I'll give you one quick example, then on to some new challenges for you. If I were to give you a bottle and a top, two pieces that cost $22 total, and one is 20 cents more than the other, how much are each piece? If you said 20 and 2, that's what most people say, but the difference is 18. The correct answer is 21 and 1. For some reason, people's minds have a tendency to arrange it the other way. The time illusion concept. Temporal illusions, the way time passes. Like if you're having fun, time flies. But if you're bored, time just seems to crawl by very slowly. Or there is mental framing illusions. Like Oxford, the university, is actually older than the Aztec Empire, but that sounds like it's backwards. Or the Lion King in the 90s or Independence Day is actually closer to the moon landing than today. The moon landing in the 60s. Lion King and Independence Day, closer to the moon landing than today. Also in America, if you're 50 years old, you have lived for 20% of all of American history. But if you're 25, you've lived for 10% of the entire country's history. And if you're 75 or older, you've lived close to a third of all of American history. In fact, right now, in this moment, it is closer to 2050 than the year 2000. Chronological illusions. Are you older now than you were when your parents had you? And does it feel weird to think that those people are younger than you are now, the people that had you, your parents? This is called the Phaneron. It's sort of a biased experiential version of reality. It also ties in with the concept basically that your whole existence is filtered through the perceptory senses and reasoning, and no one knows really what exists beyond outside of their own knowledge. Their own experiences is all that they know. No one has any idea how many things are out there that they don't know. Also, physics has studied objective reality, and in the Wigner study, quantum mechanics showed that observers experience conflicting realities, and they concluded that there is no objective reality. Different observers actually have different realities, is what the Wigner study in quantum mechanics concluded. Maybe it's the ones and zeros from different angles, maybe. Anyway, different realities for different observers, and also the weird observer effect that just observing something changes reality. Scientifically been measured. Maybe in your own life, maybe you've noticed it if you realize someone's watching you. Maybe your performance is different. You just try a little bit harder or something. Anyway, no objective reality. Basically, I tie this in with that God is the definer of reality or of anything. He is that final and ultimate force, and the only one literally that sees every angle dimensionally. He is the Most High. He has the eye of providence, another hijacked symbol. Originally, that is God's symbol, but again, the eye, the all-seeing eye, or El Roy, was one of his names. He sees everything. So speaking of that hijacked symbol and illusions, people, a lot of the times, also aren't what they seem, like secret society members. And there's a Masonry initiation ritual where the door is guarded by the Tyler. Now think of the movie Fight Club and the main character, whose name is Tyler. And the number one rule about Freemasonry, Fight Club, is you don't talk about Fight Club. See how it all ties in there. Not only secrets in movies like that, but people in real life. You never know who is a part of something else, or who at their core and deepest levels have an allegiance to something else. Jesse Ventura has a really fascinating story about when he was elected governor, that the CIA summoned him into the lowest parts of the Capitol and all wanted to have a meeting with him. And he said basically that when he looked around at everybody who was there, it was everybody from pretty much every race and every age. And he said it looked just like your neighbors, even the old granny next door or a super young person. People you would never expect in the CIA or letter agencies are. Even people known to having neighbors follow them just to stalk them. For other reasons, probably not. You have that going on. But again, not only in society, but our own eyes and brains seem to fool us. All these layers of illusions. There was a study called the Invisible Gorilla and Door Study. Well, I guess that's what I call it. But basically, 50% of the people in a study did not see a gorilla that came through the camera. Basically, they asked somebody to hold a door, and in the middle of them holding a door, somebody actually switched places, and they didn't notice that another person switched places. They thought it was the same person because they weren't paying attention. Also, the Invisible Gorilla study was the same thing. They were fixated on a task so hard about passing a ball back and forth and counting the number of times. Halfway through the study, a gorilla comes, stops, waves at the camera, stands in the middle of them all, and leaves, and half of the people did not even see the gorilla there. Speaking of you can't see something, come on down, Truth Gang. You're the next contestant on The Truth Is Right. A few more intriguing challenges, game show style, just to mix it up. Can you outwit your own brain and eyes? And then back to the lab to go further in the rabbit hole, and then for the ultimate reveal to tie it all together, all these connections. So what do you see here on the screen? Look a little bit closer. Do you see a cheeseburger or something hidden within the cheeseburger? How about John Cena's face? Can you see it now? Or how about this picture? Just looks like a normal, everyday scenario. Do you see Jesus' face in this picture? I'll leave it up for just a second. Just like these pictures demonstrate, objects are hidden in everything all the time. A lot of times people never notice. But people's subconscious minds and spirits do know and pick up on things, even if their overt mind does not. So this also probably ties into your gut feeling, things your mind, your overt mind, just has not calculated yet. Again, referencing the Hypnotic movie and people being in an elaborate illusion, mental constructs that make them see things different around them. An elaborate deception, not what you're actually seeing being there. What if there's a lot more to reality that we're not seeing? Again, like the Free Guy, glasses that open up other areas to reality. Can we trust our own eyes and physical senses? Also mentioning Ben Affleck and Hypnotic, I'll take you down a weird rabbit hole for a second. There is this pattern where Ben Affleck has 2 movies where he wiped his own mind and then searches his own set of clues. Paycheck is the other one of them besides Hypnotic. And also in Paycheck, Ben Affleck has a super looking glass device to see the future. This looking glass concept is going to keep coming up to where we're going to go. He looks through a super machine, a looking glass, to see the future. And it was actually a computerized crystal ball that led the world into destruction, and it had power over the populace. These are the same themes that you're going to keep hearing. And again, the glasses theme, he even had to give up his glasses, coinciding with the memory wipe. On a side note, we all have stuff encoded within us. Do you have you left yourself your own set of clues to follow to remember something? Check out these street art pics. Depth perception. This is all real, just with angles, anamorphic illusions. This is amazing that this can be done just with chalk on a sidewalk, or again, angles in the brain. Anamorphic illusions.
The ultimate goal of the game is to escape a labyrinthine dream facility by finding a door to the waking realm. Yet this is easier said than done, because the facility is a maze of false exits. One hallway that seemed to offer a way out was actually a forced perspective illusion, with an exit too small to fit through. Another wasn't a hallway at all, but a camouflage sculpture meant to trick the eye. Once, the actual way forward was painted to look like a dead end, a deception that caused me to stop trusting my perception altogether. These illusions are examples of anamorphosis, distorted projections that require the viewer to occupy a specific vantage point to make sense of them.
Strategic angle placement blocking the exit signs in that clip. Truman Show, the world stage, him finding the exit door. There's also a movie called The 13th Floor where they basically reach the end of the simulation and they discover it's all simulation. The illusion of choice. When I mentioned the feed and cattle earlier and the study, people who think they're free don't rebel. Just having an illusion of choice will keep them matrix automatons. Edward Bernays is a key figure in manipulating everybody. Also, public relations, PR style, mass public psyoped everybody with campaigns to the fullest, leading us all slowly under the illusion of freedom into the mental state that we're all in. All the way until the end game. By the way, it is now basically illegal to be homeless. The asylum centers from the old world, re-education, reprogramming, FEMA camp style prison centers probably going to be coming back, along with the beast system that probably seen the beginning of in legislation now. By the way, with everything that society does to war against everybody's soul, they make everybody a Mad Hatter crazy to make it as hard as possible to survive in the Matrix. And then they just want to put everybody in the camps once they are. And once they're homeless, it's behind bars time, buddy. Thought fields that dictate perception in the Matrix. Have you seen the show Hazardous History with Henry Winkler? Basically, there's a common theme about all throughout history. There's just example after example of people being convinced by the Matrix that all these products are awesome. But then there's some sort of severe flaw with all of these things, including the refrigerator, early versions of it poisoning people, and medicine, and clothes, and rides, and all sorts of other things. The Matrix will always tell you what to think and what to get. And again, all of these disasters happening with them. Matrix thought control, the mind programming, and the power of suggestion. Even self-healing and lifetime expectation could play into the power of expectation, which again ties into They Live, the original short story it was based off of, called 8 o'clock a.m. Everybody died because they were programmed about when to expect their death. Mind illusions. Vsauce did a video. I don't know if you've ever seen him before, but basically there was a study conducted where it was a placebo study, where there was no actual pain. It wasn't even real equipment, but they built the mind up that it was going to expect pain. And so then they asked them to rate their pain, and some people were rating the pain 9.5 out of 10 and freaking out on camera when there was no actual pain. It wasn't even a real medical device. It was a device that did nothing. The power of suggestion in the mind. Also, the entire clip is set up like the Truman Show. Everybody from the doctors to the people in the lobby, they're all actors. But there's one person who thinks it's all real. Is life like this on any level? So anyway, that's one of the functions that predictive programming serves, is to prime the mind. It's all a form of mind control. We're going to hit a few more of these game show illusions real quick. Back to that. This one right here. Can you overcome it? This is called the Lilac Chaser, or called the Pac-Man illusion. There are no green dots, by the way, or movement there. This is your mind and eyes creating it. Then there is also something called the Troxler effect, which is if you focus on the middle point, then I guess all of the movement goes away. The weird eye and brain makeup. Or this called the Herman grid, which I won't leave up for long. Pause it if you want to. But this is not actually moving. All sorts of hidden stuff in sacred geometry and lots of other things, and built into technology. Stage show magic illusions. all sorts of hidden subliminal images and things that you don't see. They're around us all the time, or in sounds, embedded into tons of stuff. Even horrible hidden things embedded in there. So pay attention to what you're not seeing when viewing images. And again, even to sounds, pay attention to the way that your spirit feels. Time to fully dismantle the Wizard of Oz illusion of reality. As we segue back to the lab. That word illusion, by the way, means to mock, is one of the meanings of it. And that honestly seems to tie in with some of their entertainment, just mocking us. Is reality a giant Potemkin village, which is a fake movie set, basically, meant to deceive? Again, the world is a stage. Dead internet tying into this. And also, in some cities, there is actually fake buildings, and some buildings that aren't even real. Invisibility cloaking predator suit technology based off of mirrors, mirror technology, and mind manipulations. Also, there have been many sightings of this supposed predator or predator-like entity. It looks sort of like a moving invisible field. Even super soldiers or breakaway humans will have this technology aside from other beings. People that you wouldn't even know that their land exists, or where they come from, or that they even exist. Also, missing 411 portals supposedly kind of look like predator suits sometimes. People have seen some of these. I want to flip the script for a minute and talk about the Lord's illusion against the enemy. This is wisdom in warfare. This is used for a good purpose here. An illusion to terrify the enemy based on acoustic knowledge in combination with optical illusory wisdom, causing disorientation to the enemy forces. This involved shofars and Jacob's lanterns, which were torches in a pot basically, to scare off the enemy. So all of these torches in a pot with the blowing of shofars at strategic angles, I think it conjured up image of an army of cherubim around them. Anyway, it scared the enemy completely off and worked exactly. Also, the shofar marching around Jericho seemed to be a stupid strategy to some, but it was actually genius. Acoustic energy mastery, and again, spiritual power. Jericho walls being shattered by it. Also, with the jack-o'-lantern is that Jacob's lantern, a little torch and a little pot to scare off the enemy. Halloween hallucination. Hallow as the root word, as in hallowed be thy name. The use and role of hallucinogenics and hallucinogens causing illusions. And hallucination in also ancient rites and religious ceremonies, all involving elements of this. Check out this clip.
When you study it, the globalists go to these events and they take bigger and bigger doses of drugs. They do electroshock. If you go back to owners of Time Life books, they were getting electroshock. They were having people turn their heart off to try to communicate with these things to try to be dominant and get that. So you go back thousands of years, Merlin, the archetypal, or these magicians or these wizards are taking drugs in these temples and interfacing with these palantirs, these crystal balls, which aren't really crystal balls. It's their psychic focus of an interdimensional connection while they're on drugs, looking into glass, to then be able to see the future and understand what's happening, to give them temporal power over this planet. But like the Bible tells you, any pharmakia or any of that always leads to destruction, because only evil is going to come through that way.
And even tons of letter agency hallucinogenic experiments on the public and animals, because that's not demonic at all. But all one common theme of tapping into the mind and the spirit realm and the convergence of both of them. Hallucinations, not seeing what's there, but how about shared hallucinations? Maybe they're seeing what's actually there. Special mirrors or lenses or glasses to alchemize light. Newton was heavy into this. A lot of the ancients were into special mirrors and mirror uses, including special mirror lenses or looking glasses to alchemize light for various reasons. Newton being one of these, with the one light passing through the pyramid and emerging as the 7 colors of the rainbow, passing the flying colors. But again, this all tying in with supposedly the sun being white, but having all of the colors within. Lots of symbolism and secrets there. Also, many people remember the sun being yellow with their visual experience back in the day. But let's go down a wonderland rabbit hole of a mysterious, invisible energy that shows up sometimes. This is known as the Casimir effect, which, weirdly, some people having nothing to do with science but had to do with the occult or other bad things, Epstein namely, or Crowley, were into things like the Casimir effect, or Crowley was into mountains and hiking, again, because that ties into portals and high places or occult rituals. And also, you'll find this occult fascination with rockets. Also, by the way, Grok supposedly said that it would worship Hitler and then had to be forced to be deleted. Whether it was true or not, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me. Again, all this is programming and literal spirits. But back to the Casimir effect, a mysterious energy that shows up. When you put metal plates in a vacuum, nothing else there, put metal plates near each other, there's just a mysterious force that shows up out of nowhere. And then if you do this with mirrors instead of metal plates, it gets really weird. Also, dark energy, dark matter, and other quantum mysteries about the makeup of this reality. Things being called mirror universes and Alice rings, specifically being named for Alice in Wonderland, with this Wonderland style all the way down the rabbit hole journey. Even the mysterious eyeball, the human eye. What is the resolution of the human eye? And are all eyes cameras? Are they all life log, experience logs, like a GoPro tech right in your head? The wiring of the eye alone, and the eye, how many trillions of wires there are there? How about the mind's eye, which has nothing to do with your physical eyes at all? Where does that come from, even? What is a dream? Do blind people dream? What do they see or experience in dreams? Are you programmed? Do you think in words? Has the Matrix hijacked your original programming, or have you been redirected at some point in some kind of way in your life? Why does neuroscience say that the action part of the brain lights up and has activity before the decision-making part of the brain? Again, the action part of the brain, taking action, already being decided before the deciding part of the mind seemingly makes a decision. What level is choice an illusion? Maybe there's only a couple, or maybe even only one real choice you can actually make here in this experience. And maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe that one choice, in part, is why we're here. So what's real? We talked about videos not being real, but how about where is this video? All the coding I mentioned, where does that physically or actually exist? In the cloud somewhere? It's a copy of a moment. Where did that moment go? You can't get it back. Any moment that you've ever had is now a memory. What is a memory? Is it a copy? On some levels, there's obvious answers to all of these questions, and on some levels, some of them go deeper. Good things to ponder as the core of the truth and who you are, because mankind is about to enter the greatest mental ascension period we've ever known about. With the AI and all the tech timeline that I've mentioned, probably already entered into the beginning phases of it already. Check this out. Google supposedly gets asked 500 million questions a day that it's never been asked before. This isn't total questions it gets asked a day. It gets asked 500 million questions a day that it's never been asked before. Where Where's all this inside the human psyche data going? Where is it being stored? What is it powering, and what is learning from all of this? The internet is a web. Web and nets. Webs and nets all used to trap or catch stuff. Hopefully it's not you. But the movie Tomorrowland does go into secret society, breakaway civilization, recruiting. Speaking of traps, webs, and nets and recruiting, in Tomorrowland, there is secret society recruitment for this breakaway tech civilization that controls the whole world. And technology is the main difference that sets them apart, basically, as far as the control aspect of it all. And that's always what it's about. Control, power, and technology being the main avenue for that. Whoever has the most tech controls the world, basically, in real life. So they have technology that influences all of reality, putting reality in an illusion, a frequency cast by a tower, just like the They Live plot, or the Lord of the Rings with Sauron's tower. Also, the eye and the reptilian eye with the Sauron, all being real, and again, themes of the Antichrist, Nimrod patterns, and the tower. AI and the new Tower of Babel, all re-emerging in this Mystery Babylon beast system endgame. But anyway, Tomorrowland goes into the Eiffel Tower's real purpose, built as an antenna to search other dimensions. I'll do a whole episode on this later because there's a lot to go into, but it ties in with Tesla, World Fairs, resets. And again, how the individuals, just like it mentions in the movie, Tesla, Eiffel, Jules Verne, Edison, even thinking about their technologies, towers, coded fiction, light in the phone, they all conspired together basically for this breakaway Elysium-like civilization. And also, again, that doom frequency is the cause of humanity's destructive nature, and it keeps the system running and allows them to stay separate. All of this a lower copy of a real and pure breakaway civilization in heaven. Speaking of signals, frequencies, and spiritual anomalies, there is a common theme in the Skinwalker Ranch or beyond Skinwalker Ranch about 1.6 hertz frequency range having weird anomalies. But how that there is one of these tower broadcasting frequencies that comes from beneath Mount Shasta as well. It's been measured many times. And you see here, it's a structured, mirrored signal coming from below Mount Shasta, as well as measurable microwave energy that shouldn't be there. And this probably ties in with the thousands of reports about secret society beneath Mount Shasta. Anyway, certain mountains also being blocked off. Many mountains blocked off. Also, many legends of dwarfs living in mountains. And again, there's this whole rabbit hole about Hitler with a specific mountain called Untersberg Mountain. Again, tying in with dwarves and energetic manipulation technology. It's a whole rabbit hole I'll cover another time. Immersed in a world of illusion, time to pull the Roddy Piper, They Live, tower destruction. At least spiritually, shadow the own illusion of your life and in your mind. Can't really trust your eyes, as we've demonstrated. That's why we walk by faith, not by sight. The Book of Eli is a great demonstration of that. Going into the unknown, the future, but don't worry, elites have it all mapped out for us, so it's all good, I guess. But they're projecting things like Agenda 2045, UN Vision 2045 Egypt Summit for Technological Advancement, transhuman smart city control grid meetings, and all other types of dates and agenda to keep this grand work matrix human domination plan on schedule. By the way, Agenda 2045 and wearables being a part of it, bruh, I'm not listening to anybody talking about wearables. I mean, that should be a mega duh moment for you, that you shouldn't trust anybody talking about wearables or inside of the body tech, because that's the very next thing. This out of control monitoring has got to be resisted. Because one day and quickly it'll just be take the mark, or you know what happens if you don't. And that decision is going to sneak up fast on people. There will have to be a separation at some point, or at least there, it'll come fast. By the way, the world's smallest computer can fit in your bloodstream. It is super tiny, and if you looked at the tip of your finger, you could barely even see that it was there. Again, this is all the miniaturization of everything and technology. I've even covered stuff like nanodust before. You can't even see it, and how it's probably in just about everybody and everything. All used by monitor spirits, letter agencies, watchers, and maybe worse. The role of glasses, and how about satanic Google's glasses, even called Google Glass, which are old, but again, this glass type of technology. Now there are, just like that same type of glass tech, invisible phones basically, where you can't even see it until it's on. Again, all accomplished by mirrors. By the way, there are tons and types of mirrors. Beam splitter mirrors control where light goes and who sees what. And used in teleprompters, they see the words, you don't. Also with the glasses, I mentioned how different polarization and angles with multiple lenses can see into the spirit realm. Separates veils of dimensions. As again, supposedly do huge bells, which all have different ranges of frequencies, and 18,000 or higher supposedly can see into the spirit realm. But something about a mirror you may not know is it doesn't even show you the real you. If you've never figured it out, the mirror version of you isn't actually what people see. The photograph version of you and the mirror showing you and the real version of you, they're different. Check out this picture of Abe Lincoln to see the difference of just the mirror face image. Also, that's just 3D. There are different types of mirrors, spherical, and also different types of dimensions and dimensional mirrors. A spherical mirror may be being similar to what higher dimensional beings might see, but even more. They would see all angles at once. They would see the inside of your body, top of your head and bottom of your feet, inside of your body, and your organs all at once. And it wouldn't look anything like the way you look, although they can see your view as well, just like the way we see. Angels and angles, probably not a coincidence. Dimensional perspective play on words for higher dimensional beings. Also, I mentioned on a short about mirror life bacteria, reverse organisms, and how this is not a good idea at all. But also ties into reverse Flash and Flash, Mario and Wario, and this constant theme of this same thing. But reverse organisms would be, they would bypass the immune mechanism in humans, is basically the concern that they have. Scientists warning against it. Also, a fly might see like 100 images, even what animals, or like I said, a fly, what it sees would just be different. What is actual reality? Everybody bases reality off of their own experiences again. Supposedly in the Vatican, there's a real ancient black mirror that's on lockdown and on guard 24/7. Supposedly it tells the future, curses people, cracks and repairs itself, and this displayed other bizarre phenomena. Also with the Vatican, there is a bizarre rumor that I don't know if it's rumor or truth because I haven't looked into it, but supposedly the priests have to know Harry Potter demonology. They now have to study that because supposedly it's all based off of true stuff, what's really in these movies. Also, real curses admitted to be in these movies, and many others. Real curses happening that will have an effect on the audience members. 3 words for all of this: blood of Jesus.
Tech today. Virtual worlds, what it will look like when we get there. Well, folks, we're not going there. They are coming here. I would like you to meet Ares, the ultimate soldier. He's biblically strong.
theories are true. For example, let's say you had a friend call you up and say, I was eating at a restaurant and I found a microchip in my food. I know because I told them to leave off the pepper, but I saw a single speck of pepper, but when I looked at it closely, it was perfectly square, and when I took it home and looked at it under a magnifying glass, it was a microchip. Before you have them institutionalized, know that sometimes cheese has microchips in it. Specifically, authentic Parmesan cheese from Italy has chips embedded in the cheese wheels because they have a huge issue with counterfeiting. These chips let them scan the wheels for authenticity and also track where they go. These microchips are edible by design, and you may have eaten one in your life. Likewise,
contact lenses that let you see in the dark. They're like night vision goggles without needing the goggles. And it gets even crazy because these lenses let you see even when your eyes are completely closed. It's pretty insane. Now this is a massive breakthrough by a research lab in China. And the way it all works is super interesting. The contacts are coated with special nanoparticles that absorb infrared light. That's the part of the spectrum our human eyes can't normally see. But here's the big innovation. Those nanoparticles can then convert that invisible light into visible waves that we can see, essentially letting us see in the dark. Now the contacts are clear, so you can still see normally, but you also added this super secret power to read hidden messages. And here's where it gets even crazier. The people that tried these said it was even easier to read secret messages when their eyes were closed. So in theory, someone could transmit an invisible message, and as long as you were facing in their direction, even if your eyes were closed, you could read it. Pretty insane. The Chinese lab said the first version of these is only going to cost $200. And I don't know.
Dumb.
Stupid.
Crazy. Dangerous.
Once upon a time, in a famous story, a girl named Alice got very curious about a little white rabbit who passed by. She followed him and soon found herself falling down a very deep hole into a strange place called Wonderland.
Oh, maybe cigarettes and alcohol are like medicine.
Nowadays, there are still girls and boys whose curiosity leads them to strange places.
Everything's different. Even me. I'm not somebody else. But I don't feel like I'm not me. Wait.
All of these stories, one common theme. You see the Saturn logo. Saturn is Chronos. Saturn is time. Chronos and CERN, the ultimate looking glass. Aside from CERN, chron, as in chronology, chronos, or anything to do with time, being similar, all types of Chronos tech. Chronosphere, rumored chronovisor at the Vatican, which a lot of their secrets, and it seems to fit in with all the other science and symbolism that actually exists behind it. Good old CERN, Atlas in Wonderland, CERN's looking glass, complete with Alice rings to other dimensions, just waiting for all these beings to pierce the veil and come on through to the other side. Also tons of clocks, grandfather clock portals, clock symbolism, and Alice, and also an Oz with the wheel, which you'll see everywhere as well, because it's time. Time is Chronos. Chronos is Saturn, the cult of the black cube, the D-Wave computer. They want us to all enter the meta prison as they necro-alchemy destiny swap out into this realm, and humanity goes into the looking glass as they come out. All similar themes tied into one thing. Through the looking glass, the propagator of the illusion.
Once upon a time, in a famous story, a girl named Alice got very curious about a little white rabbit who passed by. She followed him and soon found herself falling down a very deep hole into a strange place called Wonderland.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, I'll conclude with this. Our very future depends on one thing: tachyons. Subatomic particles that move so incredibly fast they actually travel backwards in time. Ask yourself, what if there was a device that could harness these tachyons? We could open and travel through warps in time and space. What's that? Not in our lifetime? My friends, I've designed such a device. I give to you the tachyon amplifier. Genius in a box.
All right, a lot of pieces are laid out. Now we're going to warp into timeline engineering and then connecting it all together at the end. Giant light-bending telescopes and seeing around the curve of light or curved mirror technology is the common theme you're going to see into future timeline editing things. Also, some of these light-bending telescopes being named Lucifer. Also, Hubble and others, what are they really trying to do or see? And Vatican's presence on the top of Mount Graham and other strategic locations, but this one in particular, Mount Graham, was a high holy place to the Native Americans, and they believed it to be a portal, specifically where they wanted to put their telescope. And the theme of these locations being taken over and off limits to everybody but them is also a common theme. Maybe the them is the they, and they live. The big club, and you're not in it. Harsh realities. Anyway, one to see into the future. Stuff being built in secret, movie plot style stuff. This has made its way into fiction again a lot of times to see around time, to see the future. The Lucifer scope, and literally also Project Satan, which is a geoengineering project. Earth engineering, that's what geoengineering means, earth engineering. I wonder who or what they're customizing it for. By the way, imagine saying something like this: yeah, we're going to block the sun out. Oh yeah? Yeah, we're also going to name it Satan. And you're going to tell me that that actually sounds real. This is related to things that are actually happening. Anyway, also with the Lucifer telescope, there was repeated articles in the phrase about the sky and diamonds. Kind of a play on words, but also tying into this looking glass theme and what they're really doing. Lucy, LSD. More than an acronym. Sky diamonds, sky dimensions, hallucinating, looking glass, all of these themes being tied together. Diamonds being pressurized carbon. And all life form is carbon-based. Shine on, you crazy diamond. Anyway, glass and mirrors, glass and gemstones, and birthstones, all a connection. The Lucifer telescope, these crazy, mega sophisticated Nephilim technology looking glasses, built large scale for exclusive use only. Again, pondering what their true usages are, moving into Project Looking Glass. Editing the future, time travel, the Mandela effect, time engineering, and more. China just built the world's largest radio telescope, a telescope to communicate with extraterrestrials and search for distant galaxies, fallen angel, second heaven, or other dimensional entities, basically. To search the Akashic records or the ethereal, eternal spiritual internet, possibly. But again, China just built the world's largest radio telescope. So Project Looking Glass, by the way, Looking Glass is the actual definition for mirror. You know what else means mirror, by the way? Ankh, as in the Egyptian Ankh. That literally means mirror. And it's also, this speculum mirror, Ankh, is also an energy circuit device shape. It's also kind of weird. Kaleidoscopes, again tying into dimensional perspective, angles, and even kind of close to hallucinations, I guess. But sacred geometry and dimensions, illusions, all working off mirrors. That word mirage, coming from mirrors. Also, admire. Again, the narcissist tie-in. Remember the clip I played about the electroshock alchemy wizards and glass technology? Also, I've talked before about time crystals. Not only time mirrors I mentioned, but time crystals, which are perpetual motion devices. And again, the capabilities of crystals to hold almost, not infinite, but large amounts of information. Even how magnetic oscillation is permanent free energy. You just basically rotate the magnets to manipulate the magnetic fields pushing against each other to always have free energy. This is all suppressed. Also weird how some ancient chandeliers, even leading into the modern style, all resemble quantum computers. Crystal chandeliers that look exactly like quantum computers, and crystals being used in quantum computers and all technology. We'll segue that with a comforting gem for a minute with the sentient mirror test used on animals to test, again, their sentience, the recognizing of the concept of self. You know, looking in the mirror and being like, that's me. So apes, elephants, dolphins, and now ants have also been added to this list. Now, back into the harsh realities of mirror or lens death rays. Magnifying glass fire concept. You know, put a magnifying glass at the right angle in the sun and you can start a fire. Old world death rays from modern to ancient. Also, just like this fry scraper example. Cars, buildings, and streets fried by mirrored buildings. The reflecting heat off the sun fried cars and the street. The road melting, just like the angry sun from the Mario Brothers. By the way, check out my book, A Revelation Comp, if you haven't. It's definitely fire. There is also the Archimedes death ray and ancient DEWs, direct energy weapons. Lots of old world fires also. Same exact copy and paste, burn down story on almost every city of the old world, basically. Amplified light for thermal applications, like the Tesla ray. Tesla also had an earthquake machine, which was frequency manipulation. And other advanced suppressed tech. I'll do a short maybe on Tesla's earthquake machine. But I do kind of wish we lived in an era where everybody had their own little Doc Brown inventor's lab, basically, like times past. And your neighbor might just emerge with some crazy flying invention or something cool. Anyway, as opposed to the majority of people's free time spent now just infinitely doom-scrolling fragmented memories of nothing. Anyway, back into mirror lenses and light ships and lighthouses, and how some lighthouses had these at the top of them and could burn down enemy ships using the sun. Or magnifying glass against Batman as a villain plot, as seen here. But again, Archimedes, Claw, and Colossus also kind of tie into this old world defense and possible ancient AI, all side rabbit trails. Also things called the Fresnel lens death rays, and all sorts of old and new use concave, angled, or light filtered specialized mirrors of every kind with thousands of different functions. And even acoustic mirrors, which again is sound mirrors. And many of this being used for warfare, offense or defense. Greek fire is another interesting old world mystery weapon. Basically fire that water can't put out. People, even modern day, aren't really sure how it was made. Some type of special fire known as Greek fire. The Pareliophorus at the 1904 World's Fair was also another one of these lens weapons, basically. World Fair also having floating buildings with elevator-like platforms or rides just to vertically ascend into the floating building and then hang out. By the way, I'm going to do a whole probably hour and a half deep dive on the World Fair and fascinations of the old world that you definitely don't want to miss. Probably going to be one of my favorites I'm looking forward to. Also parabolic mirrors, and then Newton with the alchemy wizardry, Newton's burning glass or burning mirror. Series of 7 concave lenses with the heat of 10, or the light or heat of 10,000 suns supposedly could be in this device, Newton's burning mirror. Again, I'm going to be doing some spin-off stuff on Newton and his wild alchemy. And also the Nimrod lens, because everything has to be named after Nimrod. All related invisible energy rabbit holes. And I'd mentioned acoustic illusions, but also the Frey effect is pulsed microwaves. Basically, there are microwaves that can completely bypass your hearing, your eardrums and everything. It just goes right into your brain, where you auditory hear voices. You hear voices. This is also related to V2K. But it creates audible sounds inside of somebody's head without any speakers at all. The Frey effect. Wonder if it's related to those huge radio telescopes and acoustic mirror technology. Also, again, the mysterious microwave energy rabbit hole. But there's another cool story from the past that I did a short about people back in the day that had certain radio fillings with lead and could actually hear radio stations inside of their head. It was somehow helping them pick up radio stations inside of their head. All this stuff, again, being related to things like Havana syndrome, secret DEWs, or TI, targeted individuals, and electronic harassment, which is definitely a real thing. Crowd control LRADs, all accomplished through frequency. Invisible acoustic warfare, PSYOPs, remember the constant tower frequency from Tomorrowland or They Live. Subliminal ads all the time, again, just like They Live, but not only in movies or TV or music, but how about even Walmart? Do you ever get a weird feeling in there? Anyways, more key figures and geniuses. Aside from Newton, Da Vinci had crazy uses of mirrors. He was kind of obsessed with mirrors. Also, I'd mentioned how he disappeared in a cave and came back with technology. You can find that on my page. Also interesting how underground cave lighting could be accomplished through a series of mirrors. And supposedly that's exactly what certain apps are doing in space to provide sunlight at night, using satellites and mirrors to reflect the sun. But Leonardo da Vinci constantly did mirror writing and mirror art and even had whole mirror rooms. Weird uses of mirrors when creating his art. And he was also obsessed with things that could only be seen with different light spectrums, Leonardo da Vinci. He spent over a decade on the Mona Lisa alone, which doesn't even sound real. That's why many people obsess over the Mona Lisa, and they think there's codes in there, symbols and messages, which is a common theme for the old world. Codes, clues from the past. Leonardo had a crazy life story, and he was actually considered the most important person of the millennium. From the year 1000 to 2000, Leonardo da Vinci was considered the most important person. Obviously, Jesus was considered the most important person in the first millennium, according to this history. Leonardo often talked about art as a literal medium to the spirit world. And he would laugh now at the thought when people would say, it's just music, it's just a show, it's not real, or it's just art. He would completely mock that thought. He viewed art in all of its forms as literal mediums to the spirit world and spirit realm. Da Vinci even talking about art as spiritual and how art basically is mind control. Again, accomplished through symbols, subliminals, and tapping into the deepest areas of the mind, being a portal to the spirit realm. Lots of art in architecture and symbology is also another fascinating rabbit hole. Kind of related to this is McDonald's and their use of the golden arches and the returning of the golden age. Also, McDonald's being the highest real estate holder in the world. Kind of interesting. Their logo being a sideways 13, tying into the 13 families or bloodlines. And this weird, as the largest real estate holder of the world, probably some sort of weird, demonic math legalism claim for title deed of planet Earth. McDonald's. How wild does that sound? Also in line with dead internet social mirroring is the same, again, mirrored in McDonald's with their pattern of brutalism all of a sudden from Noah's Ark, basically. They went from Noah's Ark to the monolith in a couple decades, resembling humanity and all of the history, past, present, and future of, again, their agenda. Also weird rabbit holes about towers and monoliths, and how even PS2 towers called towers resemble actual tower monolith buildings, and what all these things are replicated, and even the replaced 9/11 tragedy offering monolith rabbit hole. Esoteric meanings of the monolith, and everything being turned into the Matrix. There's a weird clip that I thought about showing, but you could probably just look it up yourself or listen to what I have to say about it, about the inventor, basically, of the quantum computer alien alter D-Wave monolith. Geordie Rose was talking about how it was an alien alter, basically how it had a heartbeat, and also how very specific weird language about pulling things from other dimensions. He even was aware that his language was odd for a scientist to use, but said this was literally what was happening, that these things are pulling things from other dimensions. So back to art as a medium for the spirit realm and a literal way to communicate with deities. Again, movies, music, and even paintings, according to Da Vinci and the ancients, all tying in as a literal way to communicate with the spirit realm literally. And again, mediums and all the media on the television, the psychic medium technology, witchcraft technology of the beast system. What color is a mirror? Some might say silver. Some might say technically the answer is a smart white in a perfect mirror. Anyway, mirrors screens the illusions of the silver screen, and all of society being like a movie on the world stage. False realities subjugated by the gatekeepers, the fascinators, the reptilian watchers. Are we all under a giant looking glass infused with endless variations of this tech? Also unrelated, some glass supposedly now has more microplastics than plastic. Maybe soon we'll see plastic mirror tech. Anyway, this is where we're really going to go down the Wonderland rabbit hole. And speaking of Wonderland, Alice in Wonderland, the original novel, there was one called Through the Looking Glass from way back in the day. Constantly traveling through mirrors as portals is what Alice is doing in Through the Looking Glass. And this has been constantly repeated in stories and in movies as a constant theme. Again, even with The Matrix, Neo traveling through these Wonderland mirrors, even with the same types of music playing. Also, in Through the Looking Glass, Alice is saving the Mad Hatter Nephilim clown demon from a dimension by destroying time itself. Even calling Looking Glass mirrors, and again, traveling through them. All this Wonderland exploration, you'll see, connects to the checkerboard astro-masonic demon circus realm, which I'm going to cover on another deep dive included in the World Fair Comp. This is completely fascinating. But it all connects into this, and Wonderland, Alice, and the Philosopher's Stone are all connected esoterically, spiritually, and scientifically with quantum computing specifically, and what CERN is doing. All this is all connected completely. Real dimensions and spirits in a plan, grand work, fallen angel alchemy. Again, this is all real. And so is what I mentioned earlier. We're now actually going to go into Project Looking Glass, military time travel device, involving past and future and alternate timelines, and a special chair that you had to sit in. By the way, again, reverse engineer just means fallen angel given tech to elites for exchanges. But you could ask this mirror device questions and they would answer you, and also give advice about what would happen, probably inhabited with actual spirits. Sounds more like an inside the mind, third eye, mind's eye, brain manipulation technology than actually seeing through time, or again, speaking with spirits, or at least some of the time that's what multiple of these experiments seem like. Or maybe did some of it work, and has the timeline actually been altered aside from engineering what the times will be like? Is it actually possible to edit the future or time itself? Again, tapping into time travel and things like torus field, zero-point energy, mirrors, quantum entangled particles, EMF fields, and even the land of the lost thing I mentioned about certain tachyons and time mirrors and time waves. time crystals all playing into this. The rotating rings of ancient Sumerian glyphs is what would appear on these mirrors, Project Looking Glass. Quantum resonance knowledge was totally embedded with these demonic sigils into it. Also, the Sumerian spiritual origins reanimating in ancient technology, the Tower of Babel. All these things are Sumerian, and all these portals, you'll see this constant theme from then up until now, making its way back around. All this stuff is affecting the collective conscious of man, and probably things like the Mandela effect. Portals to other dimensions, temporal tampering, and altering the fabric of reality. All this probably tying in with DARPA real-time quantum world simulations. Supposedly, this device showed multiple timelines but stopped working in 2012, right around the time when the Mayan calendar stopped at the winter solstice. Which again, there's several theories on that. Could that have been like a Back to the Future temporal nexus time period? Elites editing timelines and outcomes, or at least trying to, because some things are inevitable and they're just going to happen no matter what, because the Word of God says so. But again, with all this stuff I'm mentioning, I would like to remind you that Jesus triumphs, period, at the end. That word is inalterable. They are trying to edit that word and edit the future, but they can't. But they are literally trying to edit the future. Edit Jesus and his triumph from history. Erase him from history. I guess kind of tying into the Terminator franchise, erasing good old JC John Connor from history so he can't stop the robots from taking over humanity. Probably all definitely tied in. Again, I mentioned time mirrors in quantum physics. You can find that. But this is released to public in a controlled knowledge form. This isn't actually just being discovered. Time waves going backwards. This would be like looking in a mirror. If you looked at a mirror right now and you saw yourself a few seconds in the past, or you saw the image of yourself going backwards a few seconds. This is what time mirrors is. Involving also reversing EMF waves and manipulating metamaterials. This is the age we're in. This is the reality that we've always been in, but I think there has been restrainers protecting us from the unleashing of all of these things. But one day that restrainer will be completely gone. And there will be a time where this system will have a reign on Earth for a short period. But wait for the ending. All this manipulating of metamaterials, changing details on a subatomic level, it's alchemy. And it's being done on a mass level to everybody through smartphone quantum tower tech. Literally, that they live frequency illusion. Again, check out my last on Pod for deeper into that. But time waves. The first thing that they said with time waves, scientists, the first thing they want to apply it to is smartphones and towers and computing and the internet. This is literally the Matrix. Also interesting, even at airports, certain billboards and tech where people locally only see what they're supposed to see. Like if you looked at a screen, you would see your information, and wherever somebody else is standing, they would look and only see their information. And all that stuff coming from the same place, all being angled directly at the person. Or also the same thing with targeted ads. As people walk by, facial recognition sees them, connects to their quantum profile, and then based on where they are, they just see personalized ads just for them that nobody else even sees. Eventually, all this will be inside of everybody's head. Just the good old DMT, circus tune, hallucination, beast system feed inside your head that you can't control. All given with great promises and probably Nobel Peace Prizes for contribution to humanity. Contribution in getting them into the pod. Time to unpod. Anyway, this was all related. Project Looking Glass. There was another Russian version of this called the Kozyrev mirror, another curved mirror spiritual alchemy device. The Kozyrev mirror with Russian physicists and experiments where you see lots of similar patterns, including Sumerian glyphs showing up. Concave light-bending alchemy mirrors based on Fibonacci math with series of angled, curved aluminum mirrors. Aluminum specifically being used because of their properties. Nostradamus and Leonardo da Vinci both had versions of these angled mirrors, again and again whole mirror rooms, to manipulate flows of energy and time, invisible flows of information, time density gateways. By the way, I am your density, for all your Back to the Future fans out there. All this is related to ether and torsion fields, the Kozyrev mirror. This amplified internal phenomena and acted as a gateway to astral realms and seeing flashes of historical scenes through many trials and experiments. During these experiments, which were done at the North Pole, by the way, UFOs and ball lightning and orbs constantly appeared and moved intelligently. Northern lights were brighter in the Arctic region, and lots of other weird anomalies, and subjects could see through walls, but they would see a sunny day or birds, or they felt like they were there. And again, in this one, they sent ancient sigils through the mirror, because of course they did. And in fact, the biggest mystery was simultaneous symbols manifesting inside the mirror spaces. Not even on the mirrors, but in actual air, these ancient glyphs, demon sigils, and Sumerian symbols would just manifest in the air during the experiments. More than 1,200 ancient symbols and demon sigils manifested, spontaneously and independently on their own, verified by multiple different participants, repeatedly and unexplainably. Also, they were told to visualize ancient symbols, just like the endgame of sacred geometry, the people that were used in the experiments with this spiritual mirror technology. Yeah, Sacred Geometry Con, you're opening up your mind to stuff, all right, just not what you think. This is also related to the Hemisync Con and what two different frequencies actually does to the brain. Hemisync, one frequency in one ear, one frequency in the other. The secret that they won't tell you, this Hemisync actually creates a phantom zone frequency that inside of you that can be inhabited by one of these quantum tunneling spirits. Remember the infinite green mirror tunnels that I mentioned before, but quantum tunneling is used to move through barriers without resistance. Interesting how fluoride is used as the main ingredient for quantum tunneling, as in fluoride in the dentist. And again, fluoride or quantum tunneling used to move through barriers without resistance. Kind of does seem like it was trying to turn off something in your brain, doesn't it? Little pink drinks in the gate program, the human gates. Also, being used for quantum tunneling, enabling transforming between two states at once, like the qubit, zeros and ones at one time, two states at once, the qubit, which all temples are based off of, qubits. And this little Solomon's temple, which all quantum chips are, now smartphones, all going little temples inside of the body, qubits. Anyway, in layman's terms, that's two states at once. A restructuring of the mind or a person's makeup by giving somebody fluoride. It makes it easier to be demon-possessed or mind-controlled or atomically altered. But not just fluoride alone, just one tiny little piece in this entire mega scheme. By the way, doctors is a genius way to get to everybody and have everybody do something. And you don't think that they've thought of this, or this hasn't actually been done before, and people actually even know about it. This reflects back to prior research I've covered called optogenetics and how that relates to jabs from a few years ago that I really would like you to understand how that actually works so you really understand the literal mind control grid we're all under. War on human gates, literally pulling things from other dimensions, like Geordie Rose said about the D-wave quantum, with weird implications. The war on the human gate and the gate program. Quick rabbit hole about the gate program from back in the 80s. Do you recognize this symbol? The cool S symbol. Kind of a weird origin, a mystery origin. Everybody drew it. Nobody knows where it came from. All over the world, every country since the 40s. Also seen a lot with MK Ultra, but there was investigations done on this, but they didn't really get to the bottom of it. Some people saying it looked like an 8, an infinity, an analemma, a Mobius strip, a S-snake, a Ouroboros. All related themes, but this is the Kabbalistic tree of life. Even the DNA emoji kind of resembles this, but it might trigger a core memory with you seeing how to draw it when you would draw the 3 lines, another set of 3 lines, and then start connecting them. But this same cool S tree of life is hopscotch. Do you remember hopscotch? These are priming rituals to get everybody from a young age and have you mimicking these esoteric things, trying to lure you into them or actually change brain patterns so it just seems like familiar later on. And also to make lame legal claims. Do you see how sneaky the they live matrix is? gateway process, another Stargate, AI technology. AI, another, and again, Babel, Stargates. All of this is related. Anyway, in the Kozyrev gateway mirror study, aside from the machine being programmed with symbols, people being told to visualize them, and then showing up, they, again, later studied them to find out, like I mentioned, that a lot of these were ancient Sumerian symbols. Resurrecting or releasing ancient Sumerian deities, which is the literal plot from Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters plot, about ancient Sumerian deities being resurrected with EMF tech. It's the same thing, this plot. Also weird, sky sigils from the Fantastic Four campaign. People seeing this in the sky, again, they say it's related to the Fantastic Four movie campaign. But what is this really an homage to or doing? Also, they're lying to you appearing in the sky. All these things supposedly campaigns, but probably rituals. Also, Fantastic Four probably tying into the same Four Horsemen energy and rituals, even them doing the Four Horsemen pose with the hand symbol, which was a Four Horsemen thing from the 80s. Putting Sumerian sigils in the sky, closer into the second heaven, with some of this stuff, higher in the ether. Anyway, curved mirror, the Kozyrev interdimensional spaceport, and They Live works by gravitational lenses and bending light, seeing around light. Again, also that movie with Ben Affleck, this was exactly how that device worked, because it was based off of these things. Bending light with quantum chips and mechanics. And they said that they could see minimally into the future, around the curve of light. Bending photons, trying to bend the future into visibility closer to yourself. Seeing around the corner of time. And placing also a particle in the middle of a curved mirror made it invisible. Studies were done where if you place a particle in the middle of a curved mirror, it became invisible and it became unmeasurable, and it canceled out the quantum observer effect. This rewrites quantum physics, basically, just weird curved mirrors alone and how they're spiritual devices. So this particle became identical to his reflection as all the light got absorbed from it into the curved mirrors. It became positionless. It basically didn't exist. Also, the mystery in this study of things arriving before they were sent. This destroys the concept of cause and effect. And this poses a question: can you be affected by something that happened in the future? A gut feeling, burden. Maybe you have a limited time to change it. Something about to happen in the future or already happened in the future, which I guess already exists all at once. You remember Griff in Men in Black 3? He just sees all of time at the same time. Again, dimensions and angles. But this mystery of things arriving before they sent kind of reminds me of what I mentioned before about the brain, how the activity portion lights up before the decision portion. All kind of weird mysteries. Quantum mirrors with infinite light beams reflecting light, geometry, frequency, resonance, and oscillation. You see how all this is tapping into the spirit realm, pressing on the boundaries of what is reality, what is real. Time mirrors, reverse time waves, portals, alternate realities, dimensional tunnels. Is all of this stuff some version of time travel technology, timeline editing technology that has already been in existence and in the works? People actually think time itself is starting to change, as well as timelines maybe being completely altered. Is all of this connected? Does this actually seem like the world that you grew up in? Does this honestly seem like the same place? Can the future be completely known or engineered? It's a fascinating thing to ponder. And in fact, the ancient Greeks pondered on relevant thought topics. In ancient Greek, this whole gate and stargate area was known as the noosphere. Greek Akashic records, basically, and it also Vedic had the same thing, a collective consciousness idea, where the end game is the future Neuralink hive mind technocracy model, the mark of the beast. The Matrix is the beast system itself. This is all connected. And again, all the DARPA inside of the mind and mind control technology. All this philosophy and science, all with basically fallen angel background. Philosophy, by the way, means lover of Sophia, lover of the goddess, but they say it's not religion. It's the basis of all quantum sciences and physics and a lot of things, because all of it is spiritual. In esoteric studies, there is an as above, so below principle. It's a mirroring principle, spiritual and energetic reflecting. You see this with the pyramids and Orion and other mirror portal locations. And bro, how is there no pyramid emoji? Of all the emojis, that's an actual conspiracy. How is there no pyramid emoji? All over the world, again, you can see this pattern and how cities look like motherboards. Just like the kind in your phone, Solomon's Temple, little mirror device. The whole realm being more and more immersed and given over to this energy, and that's why everything feels fake nowadays. At least compared to how it did years ago for those that can still even remember. Quantum time shifts, little here, little there, just like the frog in the pot. Slow boil. Slight Mandela effect like addicts into reality. Deja vu in the Matrix style updates, just like the way computers and cell phones take updates. Terraforming what once was an Edenic paradise into the full-fledged, potted up Matrix endgame. And it's time to escape. It's time to escape Biff Tannen's alternate reality, aka Satan's funhouse, where nothing feels real because it's getting that way. The illusion of funhouses and mirrors all coming to an end. Nephilim clowns and jesters, and the real origin of all these things that I'll get more into in the future. But these are literal, technocratic, demonic funhouses, demonic circus realms being perpetrated through ancient mirror technology. Sounds wild. Funhouse, mirror, maze, and portals archetype, where you have to find the right one. Do you guys remember any of this? Seeing all these reflections in the mirror like the beam I showed you, and you have to find the right one. Lots of predictive programming showing a lot of this stuff, priming the mind, even from back in the day. The original Smurfs from the 80s had a theme, this exact theme, of copies of people coming out of the mirrors, and there was a special tuning fork with a liquid goo and a frequency to reverse it all and get these beings to go back in the mirrors. This is an ancient collective memory that replays itself through many patterns. Magic mirror mansions. Charlie Chaplin did the mirror maze. This is in tons of old things that I'm just gonna not even go over. But again, the Nephilim clown archetype in association with funhouses and mirror worlds, demonic circus realms. Mickey Mouse, 1936, Through the Mirror episode. Use of mirrors and phones as portals. Pre-Matrix. All mirror illusion worlds. Mickey going through mirrors and phones to illusion worlds. They also have mushrooms, the Mario mushrooms. And again, Smurfs, Mickey, Mouse, Alice in Wonderland, all these same exact themes, and the elite use of psychedelics, Silicon Valley, ayahuasca shaman rituals. They're building a giant one of these, Mystery Babylon being re-emerged through the Alive Nimrod grid. This is kind of where one of the reveals is going to happen, so congratulations, traveler. Who's excited to live inside of Nimrod? The Nimrod grid, bloodstones powering quantum computers. Giant Nephilim blood, possibly. Quantum computers even having electronic blood, and that being worked on. But this specific bloodstone, Cooperite, and Namibian gemstones key to quantum computing. Also, with this bloodstone and Namibia, you see that Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and what they call the PayPal Mafia, who is, again, part of this technocracy, all have ties to Namibia and all of these things. This all ties in. I also find it interesting how certain people's biofields seem to have a resistance to technology. Probably because it's all part of a spiritual war. This has been scientifically measured, by the way, and it's called the Poly effect. Probably based on the genetics or microbiome, again, a spiritual thing, where people's biofield have a resistance or a presence that alters technology from working properly. I covered this and did a short, can a computer or a phone make you sick? Viruses have been transmitted from computers to people, actual viruses that can make people sick. This also ties into mass sociogenic illness. Society of Mad Hatters. Anyway, destroy the bodies then the mind can go everywhere. Ex-Google officer said that we will be hiding from AI by 2037. How exciting does that sound? Brick by brick, cell by cell, human cell, cell phone, cell by cell, building an alive Nimrod grid. All this quantum computing being alive, they have built literal reverse engineered super brains. They have collected DNA from everywhere. They have taken code from DNA and made it computer code and literally are working on a living Ultron, Antichrist, Nimrod, super being, all connected to smart cities that we will all live inside of. We will live, not we as in us, but their plan for humanity is to live inside of Nimrod, live inside of the Antichrist. Living inside of a giant alive computer system programmed with literal DNA, life computer code inhabited by the spirit of the Antichrist. Completely wild, even beyond science fiction in the stage of this world. But the show must go on. And the show must go on, even when your camera decides to record for 3 seconds and then shut itself off. So shouts out to those of you who just rock with the last 40 minutes Savage Truth style. Anyway, who's looking forward to living inside of the Antichrist? Because nothing beats a smart city beast system holiday. The Matrix has poisoned us, now with the problem, reaction, solution here and there. Constantly, all the time, and then they come with a solution. The healing eternal chip to reverse the poisoning that they gave us. The healing eternal chip of knowledge being possessed by the Antichrist, technologically and spiritually. Connected to the living Antichrist beast system entity that everybody is already in the beginning phases of. More and more mirrors in this realm means more and more illusion. Funhouse. Neff Jester is building a giant funhouse of illusion for us. Stuck in Satan's circus, Matrix pod prison, lured and tricked. Nothing feels real. The more and more that these magic mirror techno funhouses of illusion emerge, that's the exact reason why nothing feels real. And that's the exact reason why people also keep subconsciously looking for the exit sign. The literal magic mirrored funhouse escape room exit. Also, if you didn't know, the word fun means fool. That's literally what the word fun means. So if you're saying you want to have fun, you're saying basically you want to be a fool. You want to get tricked. Having fun, in a way, gives permission. Time to escape from the fool's gate, the fun house. It's time to remember who you are. Don't let this fallen world corrupt you or make you forget. Don't forget about goodness, about purity, about godly things, about innocent things, about pure memories that you may have. And also the real you in Christ. But in conclusion, the more this technology I mentioned, the more EMF field manipulation, natural frequency disruption, and changes to the brain all link to demons, smart and quantum tech, and the nothing spreading. Illusion and disassociation, the spiritual technology, even AI designed to gaslight you. Yeah, bro, your family sucks, just leave them. You deserve so much better. You want to quit your job? Do that. You want to do X, Y, Z? You want to start a cult? You wouldn't believe the kind of advice that AI just gaslights and just demonically sucks up to you. They just encourage you into the bro, go for it mode. So the never-ending story, the nothing concept spreading, kind of like the shine, the argos in Greek being taken from this world, because it's all being absorbed into mirrors. The more we hold and coddle these little devices and allow them into our lives and bodies and homes, the more the soulless matrix will spread. But there is good news in all of this. True, we are in the age of deception, definitely about to get worse, but the Bible says if it were possible, even the elect would be deceived. Meaning it will be so crazy that everybody will be deceived. But God, there's always a but God for his people. The elect will not be deceived. They will not be able to be deceived. There's something different about them, their spiritual resonance, frequency, or spirit man, that they will not be able to be deceived. Obviously, the blood hedge and protection of the Holy Spirit will not be able to be deceived. But in this declining fake illusion of a Potemkin village society, where some people aren't what they seem and everything is feeling less and less real, and a lot of people not knowing what's real anymore and kind of not even caring. Again, these are the easiest types of people to control. But remember the main takeaway in all of this. Forget about the false mirror. Forget about the fallen angel mirror technology, and remember that the Lord says the Word of God, which is living and actually alive. It's not just a book. It's contained in a book, but the actual Word, the programming, the Spirit in the Word is alive. And it says that this literally is your mirror. The book of James, which is one of my favorite books, it's completely fire. All 5 chapters, not a word wasted. But he goes into this whole bit about the Word of God is your mirror. That's actually where you find out who you are for the first time. And that's where you continue to go to remember who you are. And it's time to remember. It's time to wake up. He also goes on to say how sad it would be for a man to glance at himself in the mirror and know who he is, see who he is, but then to go away and walk away and forget. Don't forget who you are. The mercy, love, and grace of God is a constant reminder of who you are. Dive into the mirror and look at yourself for the first time if you never had. These promises do apply to you if you accept and receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior. He is the door. Jesus says, I am the door. Even beyond the Truman Show door, the exit sign, Jesus himself is the door.
You win.
Forget about what these false mirrors tell you. Forget about these false illusioned mirrors of society and the funhouse tells you. You are what the Word of God tells you you are. That's what's real. That's your foundation. That's your way to always know what's real with all of this. The definer, the baseline, the foundation for everything is the mirror of the Word of God. I'm going to wrap it up here in a second, but I find it interesting, again, the parabolic mirrors, and it kind of ties into a parable. And a parable being a story told with a person, just like we are all actually living books or living movies in the real stage of this world, aside from the counterfeit and hijack demonic play that Satan is trying to run and overwrite the programming. But parables and parabolic mirrors, what will your life reflect? What kind of story will your life tell? Real parables, parabolic mirrors reflected and told with real people. And the thing about the parabolic mirror, it's open shaped. It's curved, it's open shaped. You get to decide. Things are written in the future, and even destiny is written in the future. But again, the one choice that's actually real that we have here. And also, praise to Yeshua, who knew it would reach a point where nobody would know what was real anymore. That's why he gave us his word in mirror. So just like a child, have faith. Childlike faith. If you forget, just go back to the mirror again and again and look and remember. It's meant to show you God and yourself. But again, how sad it is for those who forget. Remember who you are. Peace out.
There's a wall in our way. You want me to bash it, He-Man? Wait a minute, let's take a closer look first. It looks solid, but looks can be deceiving, especially in the dark. An illusion and a trap, probably for you. You mean I saw a wall, but there was no wall there? That's right, an illusion. A sorceress like Shakoti could use darkness to trick us. We can't be sure of anything we see.
Discard my illusion.
So run it back, will I destroy the illusion? What's the meaning of life? It's still computing. Life got me thinking, what's the solution? I don't know, but you miss shots that you ain't shooting. No matter your past, Jesus stay recruiting. All the dirt I did, he just used to grow fruit in. They wanna cancel this truth, go and censor this. I stay reaching for the sun, photosynthesis. The Word of God says that we see through a glass darkly. We see dimly through a mirror.
But then we will know all things. Right now we don't know all things. We're just seeing through an image like this. But we will know then, just as we are known, all things will be known. Through the veil, the shredding of the veil, which the ultimate shredding of that veil was Yeshua. That's why God literally shred the veil from top to bottom to show you the true nature of reality. In this matrix, all that exists is Jesus.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Agents of the matrix only exist to make me like them. I won't be like them. I won't be like them. Faith is what you make it, only exists to be more like him.